at Work Avenue. Nice to see lots of familiar faces. I'm working with quite a few of you at the moment. I'm joined by Hannah DeHaan, who is another Crime Advisor, so just saying hello.
Hi.
And Debbie Sheldon, who you would have heard from earlier, who is our CEO. I'm not sure if we've got any other Work Avenue members on the call. We might have, but welcome everybody. So my background is I started in HR, in human resources, and I started working at Legal and General. I worked at a local borough council, and I worked at the United Synagogue as their HR director. And about 9 years ago, I decided to set up on my own and start my own HR consultancy, which actually then became an HR and career coaching consultancy, because I started volunteering as a careers advisor and really picked up some transferable skills. I was kind of doing that informally in terms of helping people to develop their own careers, but I learned a whole new skill. So a lot of what I'm saying, I'm talking from experience of doing it personally, as well as from obviously meeting with clients and knowledge as well. So I'm just going to share my screen. Just checking that Hannah, you're able to admit everybody. Are you into here? I can't hear you. You're on mute. Okay.
Yes, everyone's being admitted.
Right. Okay. Good. Lovely.
Melanie, could you click record, because I've made you the host?
It's all right. I'm recording it. It's fine.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you.
Lovely. Brilliant. Okay. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. Right. Can everybody see the slides? A few thumbs up again for if you can see the slides. Excellent, brilliant. Right, okay, we're in business. Okay, so so just to let you know, we will aim to finish by before 11 o'clock, and we will then have a 5-minute break. And during that time, there will be time for the 2-minute silence. So I'll make sure that I finish before. So just to start off with, what do all of these people have in common? Some thoughts in the chat. If you have any thoughts as to what these people have in common, you just put in the chat. I'm going to make this quite interactive, so lots of typing, please, so that we can all work together. Thoughts? Yeah, guessing all had different jobs before the ones they ended up with, changed their career. They're all famous, true. Second careers, changed careers. Absolutely. So they've all changed careers. So they all started with something different and moved on to something else. Harrison Ford was a carpenter for 15 years. He built sound stages before he was discovered as the actor who we know today. J.K. Rowling, she actually was a secretary administrator, and she secretly wrote stories on her computer before becoming a writer. I know she's been in the news for other things as well, but before becoming a writer. Charles Darwin perhaps made a career change in that he was a medical student, so he didn't go on to study medics. He obviously focused on science and evolution, but I guess made perhaps less of a change than some of the others, like Whoopi Goldberg, who was actually a makeup artist, a funeral makeup artist, who wrote stories on her work. Sorry, who was actually then found as an actress. We all know Donald Trump, who's been in the news so much very recently. He'll be looking for a job soon, be looking to use his transferable skills, I guess. But as we all know, he was a property developer and businessman before he became president of the United States. And finally, Walt Disney, who actually was told by his employer, when he was a newspaper editor, that he lacked imagination. So I think that's a story to all of us. Those of you who are not happy with their previous boss, or who they feel their previous boss perhaps dismissed them or made them redundant unfairly, worth thinking that actually the boss is not always right, and you can definitely move on to other things. So what are transferable skills? Are they? These things that we talk about. So they're skills that are gained through all areas of your life. So through work experience, through volunteering, hobbies, training, helping others. Sometimes when you help people and you don't charge for it, that can all go on your CV as work experience that actually you can use for the future. And they're transferable because they travel with you from job to job. And as you can see, all different walks of life count. And I think very often we only think about work. And actually there is so much else that actually we could be looking at. And why is that? Why are they so important in your job search? So if you could use a skill in one area, you can use it in another job, even if actually the work appears completely unrelated to your past employment and experience. And why is that? Why am I saying something like that? Yes, sorry, somebody's just asked whether the slides will be shared after the session, and absolutely they will be. But if I would actually just suggest you have a pen and paper handy, because from time to time I might ask you to do little things along the way as well. So when you look at any job or most jobs, the transferable skills take up about 80% of the job, and knowledge is about 20% of the job. And so if you wanted to become an accountant and you didn't have an accountancy qualification, the chances are you probably couldn't do that, because that is absolutely essential to becoming an accountant. There's still lots of other skills. There will still be lots of other transferable skills in there, but actually, unless you're going for an entry-level role where you're going to study with them, the chances are you wouldn't be able to do it. But actually, for most jobs, many jobs, at least 80% is based on transferable skills that we don't even think about. So just to give you an example, so this is a summary job description of a vacancy that was advertised recently for a project coordinator at Chance UK. Chance UK is a charity, and they support the delivery of early intervention parent mentoring programs. And what they do is they organise these mentoring programs, and they help parents who are struggling with challenging behaviour from their children. And they were looking for qualified mentors. They say qualified mentors, and also people who could do fundraising for the charity. And these are the skills and knowledge that they asked for, and I've highlighted all the things that I think are really transferable. Project management, time management and organisation, operational knowledge of Microsoft Office, computer skills, managing priorities, building good relations even, interpersonal skills, educated to degree level, which is something that a lot of people do struggle with when it says that. At least this one says or equivalent, worth looking whether a degree is absolutely essential or not before you apply for a job. And some experience of working in the charitable sector is desirable. So if you had some experience perhaps of volunteering in the charity sector, then that perhaps would be sufficient. Yes, they say familiarity with the work of children's charities is desirable. If you don't have that, you've got ever such a lot to offer here. So how do you go about changing sector using your transferable skills, which is what a lot we're trying to grapple with, particularly for sectors that don't exist, or we may be looking to make a small change, a minor change that's going to move us from where we are today to something else using some of those transferable skills. I want to talk to you about 5 steps to changing sector. So firstly, perform a skills audit. What skills do you have? I'm going to go through each of these in a little bit more depth in a minute. Explore. What does that mean? Where do those skills link? Where can they be used? Do I have any gaps? What are those gaps? How am I going to fill them? Do I have to fill them? Then evaluate and experiment. Think about what you've already got. And when I say experiment, go out there, try them out, volunteer, do what's necessary, find out some more information to make them happen. And then finally, sell to your audience. And that's the key one, is once you've worked out what these transferable skills are, how are you going to sell them? How are you going to let the right audience know about the right skills? And I think so often we want to tell people about our life stories, about everything that we've done in our lives, and actually they don't really want to know that. So, number one, perform a skills audit. What skills do you have? And to start with, list every job, volunteering role, academic achievement, course, interest, anything that you've done, starting off with the last 10 years, but you might go back a little bit further at this point, and note the skills and achievements you've gained from each one. This is not a time for modesty. This is a time to really think, actually, I really gained a lot from what I did here. And sometimes that can feel hard. So particularly when you're in a situation where you're perhaps feeling a little bit vulnerable, a little bit down with the current situation or the fact that you've recently lost your job, to try and think of things that you're good at is often not so easy. So ask somebody, ask a friend, what do you say I'm good at? What I worked with you. What did we work on together? Remind me. And it takes time. It takes time to think about what those skills might be. Then pick out your best 5. Start with those and rank them in order of importance. Now, how long this takes is going to depend on what you're doing, on how far you're looking to change career, or how many skills you've got in terms of whether you've been in the workplace, whether you've got volunteering work. And we're going to talk about how to fill the gaps if need be. But just to give you an idea, so skills and competencies. I've got a list here, and I've put them into groups. It's absolutely not exhaustive. There are hundreds of possible skills out there. I've brought in this word competencies as well, and competencies is really how competent you are at doing something. So when you're talking about skills, it's good to be able to describe how you use them. As soon as you can describe them with an example that says, I'm a really good listener, for example, which is at the top here. As soon as you start saying to somebody, I'm a good listener, substantiate it. Where have I used my listening skills? Have I used them in helping friends? Have I used them in the workplace? Where have I used them? Give some examples. So just going to stop for a minute and ask you to think, or write down 5 top skills. Now, clearly, we're only starting process because I've just said to you that this is going to take time to work out what those skills are. But as we're talking, I hope some skills will have come to mind. So think about your recent experiences and write down 5 skills. Obviously, if more than 5 come to mind, then that's fine. But write down 5 skills now. While we're doing that, I've just seen in the chat that there was some problems. People have said problems with audio. Is it okay now? It's okay. Good. Right, okay. Lovely.
Melanie, I've seen a question from Guy Wormser. What do you do if you don't have many of these transferable skills? Most job specs have these.
Okay, so Gary, I'm sorry, Guy, can I just ask you to hold fire on that, because I will come to it, because that's really what we're going to be talking about. So you know the bit where I talked about gaps, minding the gap, we're going to move on to that. So just hold fire, and for now, think of some skills, because I challenge everybody to think of some. So think of your last job, think of times when you volunteered, think of times when you've helped people, think of times when you've looked after your family, your children, your parents, your friends, and come up with something that's on here, and just write them down. And there's no right or wrong on here. So it doesn't matter whether you think, oh, well, okay, I'd like to put that down, but I can't use it in a job. At this point, just put anything, it's a brainstorm. Okay, and if you can just put a few of those skills in the chat, that would be great to see. Who's going to be first to put a couple of skills in the chat for me? Excellent, they're coming in now. Organising a cohesive teamwork amongst a diverse group, project management, ability to manage multiple projects, interpersonal creative problem solving, communication, interviewing, punctuality, team management, problem solving, communication, working across different organisations to deliver a project, and that's getting a little bit more specific, which is great. As an art teacher, empowering creativity, not just being creative, but empowering others to be creative. Identifying potential solutions and implementing solutions, attention to detail, teamwork, negotiation, communication, relationship management, fantastic. We've got lots and lots, teamwork, computer skills. Asking lots of questions and understanding the why behind the questions. And there's a lot of listening in that, I think, as well. Listening to the answers and doing something with them. Risk management, listening, juggling, problem solving. Follow up and owning, absolutely. So you've got the idea. So we're really going to come up with a big skills list. So if you go back to when I said form a skills list, clearly you can spend a lot more time on this, and we're just going to start the process, if you like, here today. You'll make a nice long list of skills and then pick out your best 5. And as I said, I will send the slides, so you'll be able to see this as a starting point as to some of the skills that you might have. Then explore. We're going to explore further. So I just want to start, and again, I'm going to tell you a lot more, give you a lot more information about how to explore further. But just for now, think of a job you'd like to do, because you must. For some of you, today won't be the first time that you've started thinking what you're going to do. So think of a job you'd like to do. What are the main skills required for that job? And is there a match with your skills? So first of all, just think of a job in mind, and think about what the skills are. Just write down 3 or 4 skills that are required for that job. And just have a look and see if there's any matching skills, and just write in the chat any matching skills that you've come up with. Matching between the job you want to do and the skills that you've said that you have. And just write a few of those skills in the chat for me. Okay, anybody got some skills? Yes, good. Writing, creativity, efficiency. I will come back to the questions. I'm not ignoring them. Right, okay, yeah, no, I get that. The job I want to do, I already have the skills for, but the problem is the market has dropped, hence why we're here, absolutely. So we're going to look at other ways to find other jobs as well. We're coming on to that. School business manager, planning, budgeting, communication, excellent, brilliant. Yep, so what colour is your parachute? I've read that book too. Some of what I'm saying today probably comes from, some of that's in what we're saying today. It is a good book. It's quite detailed in terms of choosing your career, but an interesting book to look at. I've sort of narrowed it down to five points really, but you can always do more, absolutely. Jenny asked, do you recommend using a specific list of competencies, e.g. civil service competencies? Absolutely. I mean, if you're looking in the civil service, then absolutely use their competencies. I would recommend looking at the competencies of jobs that you're looking to go for. And we're going to talk about how we actually know what kind of jobs that we're going to go for in a moment. So how do you explore? How do you explore further? So, you know, so I got you starting to think about it, but actually this is going to take time. So we want to find roles where your top skills will add value. And that takes research. That takes researching on job sites, LinkedIn, company websites. There's also a couple of very good career websites that I've put down there, the National Career Service and Prospects. Bear with them. They were originally aimed at people leaving school or graduates trying to decide on their career ideas. But actually, they're very, very useful for going through and saying, actually, what do I like the idea of? And what they do is they tell you a bit about the career, they tell you the skills that you need, and they tell you what you'll do. And a lot of people have used them, a lot of my clients have used them in thinking, actually, I'd like to explore that more. I can see marketing is something that would interest me. I'd like to find out a little bit more. So I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to start with some of the links, because there's links to other websites on those career websites. And then I'm going to talk further. And say it was marketing, you would then perhaps research some jobs on job sites. You'd look on LinkedIn at marketing roles. You'd perhaps look at people who are working in marketing roles who you're connected with. And look at your first connections and your second connections, because your first connections can introduce you to your second connections. Asking for introductions is a really good way to go. Have a look at the growth industries. So clearly, as we've said, a lot of industries are no longer don't exist at the moment. We hope they'll come back, but right now a lot of industries have certainly declined. But there are a lot of industries that are growing: digital tech, supply chain industries, particularly food, delivery companies, financial services. Online learning, renewable energy, charities, startups. There's a lot of new startups around, a lot of new charities, a lot of charities that are recruiting, and lots more. So have a look. What are the growth industries? Can your skills be transferred into them? What are the vacancies there? And it's very easy to think, oh gosh, they're really low level roles. Now, some of you may think you may be working in a role that means that you could transfer to perhaps a supermarket assistant job. Some of you may think that's not for me, but still think about those industries as places that have other roles as well, and have a look what those other roles might be. So you might be working in a digital role that actually could quite easily transfer to one of these industries. As long as you make it clear to an organisation how those skills transfer. And most importantly, talk to people. So we're not in a world where we can network in person at the moment, but we certainly can be networking online. And networking online is actually easier in a way that it's not as pleasant. We much prefer to meet in person. But you don't take up very much of people's time. So if you ask somebody, could I have a virtual call with you? I'd really like to find out more about what you do, because it's an industry I'm thinking of moving into. As long as they know you in some way, through somebody else, or through a course you attended together, or through the fact that you've worked together or volunteered together, the chances are they will be quite receptive to that. And because it doesn't take up very much of their time. You're asking for 20 minutes of their time. It doesn't take up too much of your time. Normally we would say, go to their place of work, you want the help. Here you don't have to go very far at all. And actually, people have always wanted to help, but really want to help now. I think we all feel a little bit helpless. We all feel a little bit sort of, where are we going from here? There's so much we can't do. That if somebody can offer help to somebody who's looking for work, you will find people will be very helpful. So it takes time, it takes confidence to approach people, but once you've done it a few times, you'll build up to being able to do that. So that's exploring. Now, in exploring, and as Guy pointed out earlier, was talking about about the gaps that people might have. As you're doing it, be very positive. Focus on what you do have, not on what you don't have. And I know from talking to clients, this happens ever such a lot, that talk to somebody and they say, well, I'm good at writing, and I'm good at public speaking, but I'm terrible at. And then they give a whole long list of things that they're terrible at. Let's focus on what you're good at, because nobody can be good at everything. So what is it that you're good at? That said, there will be some gaps. Think of person specifications that you see, that are the sort of list of skills that are required on the job description, as an employer wish list. So working in HR as I do, I'm often helping employers to decide what kind of candidates they would like for a job, what sort of person, and they draw up effectively a wish list. They don't get everything they want. It's not possible to get everything you want, even in the market that we're in. And actually, people buy people. So fitting in the team is probably the biggest thing that they are looking for. There will be a bottom line. There will be certain things they need. But actually, if you look at a person specification and you have 70% of what's required, really think about the other 30%. Could they manage without it? Could I fill the gap? Could I show them that I could train in that area? Could I go on some courses beforehand? And there are some very fast, affordable online training options available. And I've listed some of the organisations that you can look at for fast training options. Now, of course, they're not going to give you a full qualification on most of them, but they will give you knowledge and they'll give you skills. And it's worth having a look and seeing. And there's more of these around than ever before, because everybody's doing everything online and has time to do that. So worth looking. I had a client who's looking for an insurance broking role, and there was an introduction to the Chartered Institute of Insurance exams on Future Learn. And he took out, in fact, he didn't even need to pay for it. It was a 1-month free trial, and did that. Now that is now on his CV as something that says, I really want to do this. I'm really interested in it. So I've got an introduction to the professional exams. So it really does help, not only give you skills, but actually to be there on your CV and to show real interest. Obviously, look at longer term training as well. If that's something you need for the job, then look at whether that's an option, whether you want the expense, whether you have the time, whether you can take out that time when you're not earning to do that longer term training. Is it essential? Do I want it enough? And we've just actually started a scheme at Work Avenue, where we've actually got some bursaries available for longer term training. It would mean meeting with an advisor, which is what we do anyway. We ask you to do anyway, and we talk through it. But bursaries are available for people who are struggling to pay for that longer term training. We'd ask for some copies of the bank statements. It's not something that we just happens, but it is available because that longer term training sometimes can be really important, and the costs can be very prohibitive. Excuse me. Volunteering. So I mentioned at the beginning that I volunteered half a day a week, and that's how I got started in career guidance. It's a great way of getting a new skill, and it's something that I fully recommend as a way of getting experience in a particular area. Doesn't have to be full-time, can be half a day a week. There's a few useful volunteering organisations to have a look at there. Even in the current market, there are jobs that you can do from home. You don't have to go into to an office if that's something that you don't want to do. And there are obviously other jobs where they are practicing social distancing and so on. So definitely worth looking at. Volunteering can go right to the top of your CV if it's relevant. It can close gaps. It can also give you structure to your week. If every day feels the same, as it so often does when you're looking for a job, it gives you that structure. So what I would say also is when you go for an interview, you don't want to shout about any gaps if you've got them, but be ready with them. So if somebody asks you about the gap and how you're going to fill that gap, you've got an answer. So don't just brush it under the carpet and say, oh, I hope they don't ask me about my computer skills. Be ready to tell them how you're going to improve those, or how you've already started improving them, and maybe a time where you improved something else that shows that you're a quick learner. Moving on to evaluating and experimenting. So hopefully by now you will have, and as I said, there's no time on this, so we don't know how long it's going to take because everybody's different, and also how much time you put into it. Review your skills list. Look at your skills and then review the roles. Match them together and say, are there some roles where they might fit? And then start connecting with people in relevant industries. So start talking to them about those skills and the things that you're thinking of doing, and say, look, these are the skills I've got. And tell them about the transferable skills that you've got, not the experience that you've got in the past where you're not quite sure whether it's relevant. If you can get some work experience, of course, that's not as easy as it once was, and volunteering, but they are possible, to try it out, to see if it's right for you. Before you go into it, ask people, what do you enjoy about the job that you do? How did you get to where you are today? But also questions like, what's a bad day like? Are you happy with the career you've chosen? If you didn't do this, what else would you do? Really searching questions, and you'll find people are very happy to talk about their careers and where they've got to. And then set yourself goals to make it happen. The final one is really the key one. Once you've sort of come to some decisions, is selling to your audience. And the key point there is your audience, the right audience. And you'll be selling through your network, through your elevator pitch, as we often call it. What do you say when somebody says, "What do you do?" So if you're a solicitor and you want to use your transferable skills in a charity, if you go around saying to people, I'm a solicitor and I'm looking for my next job because my role as a solicitor has just been made redundant, nobody's going to know that you're looking to move to a charity. So you have to tell them, and you have to tell them about the transferable skills that you have to make that happen. I'm going to go back to showing you that job description in a minute to show you what I mean. Also on your CV, in a cover letter, and at your interview. And just to show you, so going back to that job that we spoke about at the beginning, the project coordinator at Chance UK. So if somebody was going to apply for this who didn't have the skills, this is what their CV might look like. So a functional CV, and I'm sorry, it's a little bit small, so I don't know if you can read it or not. Can people see it? But I'll pick out the bits. So I've highlighted the main bits. So this is somebody called Anne Other, who was a solicitor. Worked as a solicitor on a self-employed basis until February 2020. Excuse me, when her job was made redundant due to, or not made redundant, just she wasn't needed anymore because she was a consultant, and she wasn't needed anymore, and therefore she had to start looking around and thinking, what am I going to do that's different? She also had some voluntary experience working as chair of the PTA in her son's school. And she thought, actually, I can do administration and I can do office management. But the chances are people are going to see me as a solicitor. They're going to see me as too senior. And I've seen lots of CVs where people have put at the top that they are a solicitor in here when they're looking for an office management position. Now, we're not talking about not telling the truth. We're talking about letting people know what skills you've got as a result of what you've done. So this is a functional CV, which sometimes is the way to go if you're looking to change career, depending on how much you're looking to change career, where you really emphasise the skills. And the work summary comes later. So it's a way of sort of changing around the CV. So here we've got enthusiastic and highly experienced administrator and office manager, because we've got those skills. We've picked out project management, organisation skills, IT skills. Then we've talked about communication skills and where they've been used. And we've talked about in explaining legal concepts to clients in a clear and comprehensible manner, because that's where the experience is. But we've highlighted here, and again, in drafting legal documents, we've highlighted here what those skills are. What we haven't done here is we've not talked about any really complex cases and how they went to tribunal and how we were able to resolve them, because that's not required from this job. And so often people will think, I just want to put that in because that was such an important part of my life, I can't let it go. And we have to let it go. And I think that it's always worth thinking when you write on a CV, just think, so what? So what? Why have I put this down? Is the employer interested? Thinking from an employer perspective, are they interested in the information that I'm putting down? Yeah, they want to know where I've come from, but they really want to know, can you do the job that I'm advertising? And you have to show that to them. And quite often clients will say, but they'll realise, they'll know that if I was a solicitor, of course I had to do, I had to be good at writing, I had to be good at communicating. Why wouldn't I be? They won't do that work for you, because the initial sift of a CV, when people are shortlisting, when they've got hundreds of applicants, is something like 10 seconds. So if it's not there on the face of it, they won't see it. Same with the cover letter. Pick out the skills and the experience that tell people that you're the right person. And here this person has talked about, actually pulled together the legal practice experience and working in a school. Working in a school is working on the PTA. Now, they haven't hidden the fact that they've worked on the PTA, but they've said, look, I'm used to that environment. And that can help. And they've also talked about sort of the cause and why they're interested and why they really want to work there, and also worth picking out. You may have come across STAR. It's something that we talk about. It's quite a nice way of telling your story, of telling people sort of how you've worked in a situation and how it matters. So if you think of somebody like Marcus Rashford, so he's clearly a experienced footballer, but very recently he's become far more known for his work with the homeless and obviously getting meals to children living in poverty. Actually, those people are not that interested in his football skills, really. Some of them might be. The young people are very interested, and people who follow football are very interested. But it's his transferable skills. It's his determination that clearly he had when he was playing football, that perhaps, and still does when he's playing football, because it's not a has-been, he's very much still doing that. But that's there's big transferable skills that say, I can do this, I can make it happen because I'm determined to make it happen and I don't give up. And you can see that that's happened in both careers, but that's what he talks about. He doesn't, he's not going to talk about the sort of the generality of scoring goals in football. He's going to talk about the skills that have made it happen. So situation, task, action, and result. Situation, where was I when I performed this particular task? What was the task? So that's just a quick sort of few words that says that. Action, what did I do? And what was the result? And the action, what did I do that made me better at this than somebody else? And what was the result? And just to give you an example, so of this person who would apply for this job. So in answer to a question like, can you give an example of when you worked in a team to achieve a desired outcome? I am chair of my son's school PTA, and last year I led a team in organising a fundraising concert. So picked out the fundraising because that's what's on the job description as something that they want this person to do. At an initial meeting, we allocated tasks to each committee member, so this is picking out the team side, and I took responsibility for promoting the concert on social media and talking to my contacts about our work. I put together an advertising plan for each week until the event, with adverts on social media and meetings with my personal contacts. Overall, the concert was hugely successful, as a direct result of both the social media campaign and generous personal contributions with each member of the team working both individually and collectively. And then it talks about getting excellent feedback and raising over £15,000. So numbers speak very loudly, speak much more loudly than words. If you can put numbers in as a result, that's really going to show people what somebody has achieved. But talking about feedback is always good, and talking about what you did that made a difference in relation to the job. So I can't emphasize that enough. It's got to be in relation to the job. So I'm going to take some questions in a minute, but just to finish off, so steps to changing sector: identify your top 5 transferable skills, explore and research jobs to match, close the gap, find that gap and work out whether you need to close it or not, evaluate and experiment further, sell to your audience, know your audience and sell to them, and hopefully that leads to a new career. Just moving on to any questions. I've put details there. There's obviously my contact details. The rest of the employment team at Work Avenue. And if you do want to make an appointment with us, then there's our contact details at the bottom there. So, Hannah, do we have some questions already?
Could you go back to the slides with the steps?
Sure.
Co-hosting one, can you still need a room? Just one room.
Mel, there was an earlier question.
Yeah.
Is there a place or a resource that someone can enter their skills and it will then send back a list of jobs that those skills are matched to?
Yeah.
Prospects does that to a certain extent. So if you go on there, it will do it will give you sort of mini personality assessments, I suppose. So that's probably the closest. But once you've gone through all of this, then do make an appointment with one of us, because we will go through it and we'll say, well, actually, have you thought of this and have you thought of that? And we'll work on it together rather than just using the AI systems, if you like. Okay. Other questions? So I think we've got a few. Yeah.
Mel, someone's asking here, how easy is it to transfer from the third sector, the not-for-profit sector, into the commercial world?
Okay, so that's quite a wide question. It probably depends on what you're looking to transfer from and to. I think one of the most common changes that people make is moving from fundraising to sales, or from sales to fundraising, because there are some similarities in terms of of what you need to do. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you all. I think that will make more sense, actually. I think that when you're transferring, you've got to be able to describe the skills that are needed in both. So if you were moving, for example, from fundraising to sales, talk about it in using sales language. So look at some sales roles and pick out what they're actually asking for. Look at the person's specification. Have you got those skills? So there will be things like building relationships, being persistent, not saying no, not taking no for an answer, those kinds of things. And then the other thing is to get some experience. So it's not going to happen automatically. It depends on how long you've been in one sector. Get some experience, talk to people, a lot of networking, talking to people who are working in those industries. Where you're looking to make a big jump, and I'll never say anything's impossible, so you do everything, you throw everything at it and see if you can do it. But really do your networking. Talk to people and find out, with my skills, and these are the skills that and talk to them about the skills that you've identified. With those skills, what kind of role could I do within your organisation? What kind of experience would I need? Is there somebody who I could shadow? And shadowing isn't quite so easy on Zoom, but it has happened. I do know people who have done it. you know, is there some work experience that I can get to make that happen? And the other thing is sometimes to think long term, stepping stones. You know, do I have to take perhaps a lower level role to get to where I really want to get to move to that next stage?
There's a couple. Go on, Tana, you go for it.
Do you have any advice for seeking part-time work if you're over 55? Seems like an uphill battle.
Which is followed on by full-time work as well. It seems almost impossible for the over 50s in the current environment.
Okay, so so the thing I mean, we have got another session called "Is Age Just a Number?" Coming up to today. But what I would say is that if you believe that age is going to hold you back, then it will. I think the thing to do is to come over as up to date. So if you've got a CV that goes back too far, goes back to the 1990s, you might as well put your date of birth on there. So don't do that. Make yourself up to date. So the reason why people are ageist quite often is because they've got stereotypical views as to that older people won't have energy, they won't have good computer skills. You have to demonstrate that you've got all of those. And once you demonstrate those and you have an ageless CV, for most organisations, you should be okay. Now, there are some organisations you'll avoid, ones where you know only young people are working, just don't go for them. But on the whole, then don't let age get in the way, is what I would say. So it's 2 minutes to 11, so I'm conscious of the fact that we do need to allow you to go so that we can go for the 2 minute silence. Were there any last minute questions that I haven't addressed, Hannah, Debbie?
Had a few more, so I'll read out the earliest one. In trying to transfer to another sector, should your cover letter include anything different to highlight the change? It should
highlight the change, but not in a way, and I'm just going to answer this briefly, but obviously very happy to meet with anybody who wants to talk about this more. The cover letter needs to show that you've got the transferable skills. What the worst cover letters, I think, are the ones that say, I'm looking to transfer, and then don't explain why you've got the skills to do the job. If you show yourself to be very inexperienced, you will come over as very inexperienced and they won't look at you. So you have to show that you've got the skills that they're looking for. Okay, I think we better stop there just because I'm conscious of the fact that it's 1 minute to go. Thank you very much, everybody. Do get in touch with us, and we have recorded the session, and we will have that up on our website. Any questions, feel free, obviously, to drop an email to me or any of the team, and also very happy to meet with you, and would like to meet with you to help you to progress your career. Good luck, everybody, and thank you very much.
Thank you.